right, you guys, welcome back to the channel. I am so excited to have you here today. So today we're going to be looking at Lily Phillips, who is an OF girl who recently did a challenge to sleep with 100 men in one day. So I guess family-friendly warning today. It's a very nasty episode. Nasty topic to have to discuss, but this young lady did it and we will cover it. But before we get into any of that, this is your reminder to subscribe to this channel and give this video a thumbs up. I appreciate it greatly. If you are listening on Spotify, make sure you leave me a rating and a review over there. All of my other social medias are linked down below as always if you want to check me out on any of those. And without any further ado, my name is Noelle. This is Just Say No. Let's dive right in. Okay, so if you have not heard, this is Lily Phillips. She is an OF girl who recently did a challenge, in her words, to get run through, in her words, by 100 men in one day. Now, why she had the desire to do this, the world will never know. But what we do know is that a man named Josh decided to do a documentary regarding this little challenge that Lily was embarking on. So he was with her for, I believe, the week leading up to it and the day after this challenge. And it will be linked down below. I will show you a couple of clips. I don't want to show too many because it is Josh's work, but I highly recommend checking it out because there's so many small moments that add up to a bigger picture of this girl, and it's very sad. At the end of the day, this is an incredibly sad story, and I don't want to approach this in a cruel way or in a mocking way. I do think Lily is incredibly naive, but more than anything, my heart is broken for her because she has been so lied to. This young girl, she's only 23, and it's something. Because while, yes, at the end of the day, Lily is responsible for her own actions, nobody is forcing her to do the things that she is doing. She has, like many young girls, fallen into the trap and bought the lie that has been sold to them by feminism. And God, I mean, if you think that this is something positive, if you think that it is a net positive for young women and for society, that this young girl slept with 100 men in one day, you're part of the problem. Check yourself. Look in a mirror. You are part of the problem. Okay, so in the very beginning of this documentary, Josh, the creator, goes over to Lily's apartment, I presume, to have kind of an initial conversation with her and meet her. And when he gets there, he asks her for a cup of tea, and she makes him a cup of tea and says, "I don't make tea. This is probably not any good. I am only good for one thing." And I mentioned this particular tidbit because it's the first of many self-deprecating comments. Now, maybe it was meant to be a joke. It didn't really come off that way. It very much felt like a side comment to herself and a projection of the way that she views herself. And again, it's just very sad how little self-respect this girl has. So throughout the video, she sits down and talks with Josh at numerous points. Like, they'll sit down and have conversations. And it very much felt like the initial conversations, her guard was still up. But slowly throughout the documentary, I feel like her guard comes down and she's a little bit more honest, although I don't feel like she's intentionally honest. It just feels like things slip out. That's why Joe Rogan likes having his 3-hour-long conversations with people, because you can't bullshit for 3 hours. You know, like, the more you talk to somebody, things are gonna come out. You're gonna show your true self at some point in that conversation. I want to play this clip from this initial conversation because this is something that we're going to circle back to. She talks about how her parents are very accepting of what she does, and just the usual spiel. You know, they love her and they want what's best for her, and they don't, you know, it's no big thing. And I want to play this clip in particular because later on in the documentary, she changes her tune on this.
Before that, your family and your parents are proud of you and what you've achieved.
Well, my parents knew straight from the start, like, about what I was doing. Yeah, I was just very open with it. Obviously, at the start, they were a bit apprehensive because they want me to be safe, and
yeah,
they want me to make good decisions and stuff like that. I just think I can't hold myself back and do something that I'm scared what other people might think.
Your parents must be very sort of forward-thinking and open-minded, which is great, because I think if I told my parents that I was the UK's biggest cum, they probably they wouldn't like that.
Okay, so of course Josh is correct. Any sane, rational, normal parent would disapprove and try to talk their child out of doing such a permanently damaging thing. I mean, that's the thing about OnlyStars that I feel like is talked about the least, and maybe it's because it is the most obvious aspect of this, but if you post yourself having sex online, that's online forever. People can take screenshots from OnlyFans. You think just because it's behind a paywall that nobody's gonna be able to see that who's not subscribed? There's so many aspects of this, and I also think it's worth noting, just for any girls out there, if you look here, the average OnlyFans girl makes $150 to $180 a month, which comes out to be about $2,000 a year. So you ask yourself if that's worth selling your body online for. It's not. And believe me, you're not going to make more than that. You're just not, unless the only people who make more than that are people who do outrageous stunts like Lily Phillips, and that should be discouraged at all costs, or somebody who already has a following going into OnlyFans. So just a reminder, it's not you're not going to make the bag you think you are, babe. But coming back to the documentary, watching this and throughout this whole thing, I just got the overwhelming sense that this is a girl in denial, which almost reads as a coping mechanism, because what else? What else is she going to do? Acknowledge the fact that she slept with 100 men in one day? I don't know what that would do to your psychology. I don't know what that would do to your mental state. So of course, the coping mechanism is just to deny it, push it down, and not think about it in any real meaningful way, at least. Because before the 100 guys challenge, I do believe that she and another friend did a 50 guys challenge where she slept with 50 guys in one day. So the damage has already been done. I mean, this girl has endured a lot of trauma before the 100 men thing, and the damage has already been done. And this is where I feel like the big lie, as I call it, as sold from the feminists, comes in. Because when I say the damage has already been done, they will swoop in and say, what do you mean the damage has already been done? Women can have sex too. How dare you shame her? Whatever it is that they're going to say, and it's just not true. If you do not think that it's traumatizing to have sex with 100 men in one day, then you are on crack. Babe, I don't know what to tell you. The body is just not meant to endure that sort of activity. Like it or not, men and women are different. Men and women are different in their approach to sex and how it affects them. Men should not have sex with 100 women in one day, but the psychological effects of that are going to be vastly different for a man than it is for a woman. A woman forms an emotional connection when she has sex. It's a very deeply personal, very emotional thing. Even if you lie to yourself and tell you that it's not, it is. And that is why, after she did the challenge, she broke down into tears and had a breakdown. Because as much as she sits there and tells herself, oh, I like this, I'm just a freak, this is fun, in the aftermath of it, it wasn't fun. In fact, it was traumatizing. Okay, so she then continues on to take Josh through her typical work day and how she decides what kind of content that she's going to make that day. Now, she says that she prioritizes custom requests from customers, so people will send in like, hey, can you do this sort of thing or that sort of thing? And I just found this to be so damn interesting because she has boundaries in this circumstance. So for example, she gives the example rather that somebody put in a request to put a bag over her head and pretend to be suffocated. And she says, I feel like that would be bad for society. I feel like it would be bad for society if I engaged in that. Now, while I agree that is demented as hell to request that, and maybe we should look into this man, girl, I don't know that you are sitting in the best spot to say, I think that that's bad for society. I don't necessarily think that if you are on one hand willing to have sex with 100 men in one day, you do not get to then on the other hand say, oh, this is beyond what I'm morally like gonna do. I mean, I guess different strokes for different folks, but like from where I'm sitting, these are in the same realm of maybe don't, maybe let's find a different path forward. And that's kind of the thing, right? Is this is what is presumed by girls to be the easy path forward. OnlyFans is I can make a lot of money and don't really have to do anything. And I just feel like that is so inverted. I mean, Lily herself says that she really jumped into this and dropped out of college. Like her logic was, why am I spending all this money on a degree and all of this work and all of this effort when I can just have sex and get paid? And again, the average OnlyFans girl makes less than $200 a month. So is it really worth it? And I would say that the cost of your soul is substantial. I think that that's worth considering, perhaps. And in that same regard, I kind of want to put an emphasis on Lily's naivety in regards to this whole venture, this whole thing, because at one point, Josh is discussing logistics of her upcoming adventure with her in terms of protection and things of that nature. And unfortunately, there is just no way to say this without being crass. But he asks her, were the men allowed to finish wherever it is that they want to, including her face and mouth? And she says, yes, they can do that. And so then the natural next question is, do you have concerns about HIV? And her response is, can you get HIV from getting cum in your mouth? Girl, Lily, I'm going to hold your hand when I say this. If you're going to sleep with 100 men in one day, you should know how you get HIV. Maybe that should be like the first thing is sex safety. Maybe that should be the initial thing that you learn about, is how you contract HIV. It's just shocking. It is just shocking. But as I mentioned earlier in the clip that I played, I feel like her tone about how her parents feel about all of this kind of changes the more that she talks to Josh. I feel like the more she talks to him, the more her guard comes down. So I'm going to play this clip. I have one other clip that I'm going to play after this. But in this clip, I feel like she really starts to change her tune on how her family feels about her being an OnlyFans star.
You've obviously spoken to your parents about this, right?
I actually haven't. My parents know what I do, but I'm not on the phone to them every day going, oh, I just got DP'd, 17 guys today, or this and that. They don't need to know the logistics.
Of course.
I do feel a little bit like embarrassed being like, Mom and Dad, I'm 100 guys.
Why?
I guess because it's not really what my parents would have wanted me to do. Doesn't mean to say my parents are like gonna disown me or hate me or anything like that. I just don't want them to think less of me, you know? The
volumes that speaks is unbelievable. To go from your parents are so open-minded and yeah, they love me and accept me, to, yeah, I think they'd be really disappointed in me if they knew like any amount of detail. It, to me, speaks to the level of denial that this girl is in. That she is truly just skating on razor thin ice that is going to cave, and she's going to have to confront what she's doing probably sooner rather than later. And it's just a theme that I feel like I see throughout this entire documentary of, on one hand, she says, I love my job so much and I don't care what people think about me. And then on the other hand, she's making comments about how she has these moments where she's like, did I choose the wrong career? Like, was this a mistake? And I think that those comments, those thoughts that she has are the truth. It's her conscience saying, we shouldn't have done this. But as I said earlier, denial is a coping mechanism. I mean, the damage is done. What she can't undo what she's done. And the only path forward is forward. It's to keep going and to keep digging the hole. And again, as I have said, yes, these were all her decisions. Yes, these were all her choices. And yes, she is alone accountable for them, but it doesn't make it any less sad knowing that she made these decisions because she was sold a lie. And I just don't believe her. I don't believe her when she says that she loves her job. I don't believe her when she says this is fun for her. I don't believe her. And it's not my job to believe her. I don't have to. Moving forward, we get to the big day. It is now the morning of her getting run through by 100 men in one day. And they kick Josh out, understandably, I guess. And every time he wants to talk to Lily or check in with her, her assistant says she doesn't have time. All she has time for is like a quick shower and maybe a bite to eat. And it just feels like Lily is this circus animal. And this assistant who is supposed to be her friend, the whole thing feels super inhumane. And yes, Lily put herself in this situation, but it still feels so like dance monkey dance. And then we get to the immediate aftermath of her sleeping with these men, and Josh is allowed back in the room at that point. And I played this clip on my reaction video this past Thursday, so make sure you check that out as well. But we're going to play it here too, because it's important to see the immediate reaction Lily had to doing what she did.
It's not for the weak, girls, if I'm honest. It was hard.
But
I don't know if I'd recommend it.
why not?
I think if you're a different type of girl, it's very like... It's kind of like being a prostitute in a sense of like, it's just a different feeling. I don't know how to explain it, like...
It's not like just having sex with someone.
Yeah. Just one in, one out, like it feels intense.
Like more intense than you thought it might.
Definitely.
Sorry. Okay. Just take
Yeah, 1 minute.
Okay, so that's the same clip that I showed on Thursday, but and if you saw that video, it's worth seeing again because it's such an important point. Immediately after this, I won't show the clip again because I don't want to take too much of Josh's work. The link will be in my bio if you want to check out this documentary in full. I highly recommend it. It's incredible. He did a phenomenal job. But immediately after this, Lily talks about how she's crying because she feels guilty. And the reason she feels guilty is because she feels like she didn't give each of the guys the best experience as she could. And again, I'm going to call cope. I do not think that that's the real reason she's crying. I think she's crying because she just had sex with 100 men, and that's deeply traumatizing. She also discusses how at some point during the experience, she started dissociating, and that feeds into the guilt she feels because she doesn't feel like she was fully there with each guy. And it's kind of like, yeah, well, no shit you dissociated. It's your body and your mind's way of trying to protect you from the active trauma that you are putting yourself through. That is why we dissociate. And the fact that these dots are not connecting, I'm coming back to an impressive actually an impressive level of denial, because this should be the most obvious, hey, 1 + 1 = 2 moment for this young woman, and it isn't. And that tells me that that she's intentionally not seeing it. Because again, what are you going to do in that moment? What are you going to do in the moment of, oh, this is what I've done. This is what I've put myself through. And now I have to deal with the aftermath and the trauma of doing that. And it's unbelievable. And what's worse is you would think that after having this moment, this breakdown, which some might even say, well, yeah, she's tired. She just spent all day having sex. And you know what? That probably is a part of it. But I do things for a long period of time. You know, I have had 12-hour work days where I'm on my grind and I'm pushing myself to the extent that I can push myself to. And sometimes I do cry. Sometimes I do not cry. And I'm just saying, if I had to put my money on something, I'm going to say that maybe her being tired is a portion of why she cried, but I'm going to bet that the majority reason why she broke down crying isn't because she was tired. It's because she just had sex with 101 men. That's where my money's at. for future reference. Now, you would think that after having this reaction, after going through this, she would realize, okay, well, I did that, and now we're just gonna maybe, I'm not gonna say that she would realize that she should stop doing OnlyFans, because I don't frankly have that much faith in her, but maybe at least we're not gonna do another insane challenge like this. But no. In fact, she's doubling down. She has a new goal for February of 2025 to sleep with 1,000 men in one day, which logistically, see, here's where I'm truly just, you're losing me, Lily, because there's only 1,400 minutes in a day. And her whole, reason that she says she was crying was because she felt guilty. She didn't feel like she was giving each man the time that he deserved. So how are you going to give each man the time that he deserves if he's literally going to have about a minute and a half with you? I don't even think a minute and a half, about a minute. I'm just curious. I hate to be crass once again, but logistically, I'm not quite sure about this one, Lily. And I just don't know what she's trying to prove. I don't know who she's trying to prove it to. If she's trying to just be like, see, 100 men was such a small deal to me that I'm gonna do 1,000 men this time. Apparently there's a Guinness World Record that she's trying to break, and I don't know what is wrong with our society that's a record. But she's going for it. She's going for gold. And I guess stay tuned. We'll cover it in February, probably. But that's all that I have for you guys. That's the documentary. Once again, linked down below. It's about 15 minutes. I really, really recommend it. Josh did an incredible job. It was incredible. So, yeah, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in and listening and watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you enjoyed, and if you didn't enjoy, however you felt about the video, give the video a thumbs up, because it is the right thing to do. Also, subscribe to the channel. It's also the right thing to do, and I greatly appreciate it. And I will see you guys all next time. Bye!